Everyone at Aurelia Grand believed Maya Reed had been fired because she had forgotten her place. CEO Adrian Vale told the managers that a temporary receptionist had embarrassed an important guest, refused a direct order, and disrupted the most important opening night in Aurelia's history. Bianca Cross repeated it to the reporters outside. The champagne on Maya's uniform made the story easy to believe. So did the empty space where her name badge had been. Bianca had demanded that an elderly couple be removed from a suite near the elevator. The husband walked with a cane, and his wife could not manage the hotel's long corridors. Maya refused to invent a plumbing emergency. Bianca answered by throwing champagne across the desk. Adrian arrived, listened only to Bianca, and decided the matter before Maya could finish one sentence. "People like you do not decide who matters here," he said. Then he pulled the badge from Maya's uniform and fired her in front of the lobby. The guests saw shame. The staff saw a warning. Adrian saw a problem eliminated before the investors noticed it, but none of them understood why Maya had accepted a temporary position 3 days earlier. They did not know why she had memorized the code SC14 from dozens of employee records, or why longtime workers had been classified as seasonal departures and removed from the company insurance plan. They did not know Adrian's assistants were preparing to seal the executive data room before midnight. Security Chief Daniel Ross led Maya toward the service exit. At the doors, he lowered his voice. "Who are you?" Maya looked back through the glass. Adrian was raising a toast beneath the golden Aurelia logo. "Someone who still has to sign tomorrow morning." Maya checked the time. Less than 3 hours remained before the records changed. By dawn, the board would believe the question was whether a receptionist had disobeyed a CEO. The real question was how many names Adrian had erased before he finally chose the wrong one. 3 days earlier, Maya entered Aurelia Grand through the staff entrance carrying a canvas tote bag and a temporary employment packet. No driver waited outside. No Northbridge attorney accompanied her. She wore a navy uniform and shoes chosen for 10-hour shifts, not executive meetings. The woman at security barely looked up. "Temporary front office?" Maya nodded and handed over the staffing agency letter. The badge printed seconds later contained 2 lines. Maya Riet. Guest services. She ran her thumb over the plastic before clipping it to her blouse. 10 years earlier, her mother had worn a badge much like it at a coastal resort. Linda Reed worked housekeeping, laundry, and night inspection. She knew which emergency doors stuck and which managers signed safety forms without walking the floors. When she refused to alter a maintenance report, the resort dismissed her for failure to cooperate with management. Maya had been 19. She believed the truth would correct itself once the right person read the file. No one did. That memory was one reason she had insisted on entering Aurelia without an entourage. The other sat inside a protected folder on her phone. Aurelia Hospitality reported annual employee turnover of 11%. Insurance records supplied during due diligence suggested something closer to 40. Northbridge Capital was preparing to acquire 40% of Aurelia Hospitality. The expansion would fund 6 new hotels, refinance debt, and release a large performance bonus to Adrian Vale. The final documents were scheduled for the morning after the reopening gala. Maya's signature was required on the culture and governance certification. Her instructions were strict. Observe, verify, and do not disclose her role unless employee safety, document preservation, or the integrity of the transaction required it. At 8:15 on her first morning, Elena Park began showing her the front desk. Before they opened the reservation system, Elena handed Maya a 1-page service pledge. Respect every guest, protect every colleague, report every concern. Someone had underlined the final line in blue ink, then scratched through it. Elena was in her late 40s, with silver at her temples and the efficient movements of someone who had solved the same problems for years without receiving credit. Never promise early check-in during gala week, Elena said. Never trust the room, status screen after 6. And if Miss Cross asks for something, call a manager before you answer. Bianca Cross? Elena paused above the keyboard. You already know her name? She is listed as a brand consultant. She is listed as many things. Elena moved to the next screen. For 2 hours, nothing looked unusual. Guests complained about pillows. A delivery driver brought flowers to the wrong entrance. A junior manager corrected Maya's posture, then forgot her name. The first crack appeared before lunch. A man called asking for payroll. Samuel Ortega said his health coverage had ended even though he had worked a banquet shift the previous night. Maya searched the employee directory. No result. Elena leaned toward the screen. Try former staff. Samuel's name appeared. Status: seasonal completion. Separation code: SC14. Last active date: 6 weeks earlier. He says he worked here last night, Maya said. Then payroll will fix it. Does this happen often? Not where the cameras can hear us. Elena glanced toward the black dome above reception. A manager approached. Elena closed the record. During her break, Maya searched the limited staff system from a training room terminal. SC14 appeared again. A housekeeper with 8 years of service. A banquet captain whose award photo still hung near the ballroom. A night auditor Maya had seen leaving that morning. All classified as seasonal departures. All removed from the insurance plan. Several remained on current schedules. Maya copied no files. Instead, she wrote the employee numbers and timestamps on the back of a guest comment card. At 2:40, her encrypted phone vibrated inside her locker. Owen Mercer, Northbridge's lead counsel, skipped the greeting. Tell me you are not actually checking in guests. I am on break. That was not my question. Maya looked through the locker room window. 2 supervisors were removing names from next week's schedule with a black marker. The reported turnover is false, she said. Can you prove material misrepresentation? Not yet. Then observe. We cannot detonate a $400 million transaction because a spreadsheet feels wrong. Employees marked as gone are still working. Owen paused. The certification can wait until tomorrow morning. Do not expose yourself before you understand the mechanism. He was legally correct. That did not make waiting easier. When Maya returned to the desk, Samuel Ortega was standing in the lobby, still wearing an Aurelia banquet jacket. A supervisor intercepted him and steered him toward a service hallway. Samuel looked back once. Not at Elena. At Maya. As if he had recognized the only person in the lobby still asking why his name had disappeared. By the morning of the gala, after 2 full days behind the desk, Maya had 3 different definitions for SC14. The front office manager called it seasonal completion. Payroll called it voluntary separation. A supervisor from housekeeping said it meant an employee had failed to return after a final warning. None of them could show her a written policy. Maya asked each question casually, never twice in the same department. She learned more from the pauses than from the answers. Managers lowered their voices. Staff checked who was nearby. One payroll clerk started to explain, then stopped when a red notification appeared on her screen. Access restricted, the clerk said. Restricted by whom? The woman closed the window. HR. At 10:40, Elena returned from a meeting carrying a stack of revised schedules. Samuel Ortega is not on these, Maya said. He will not be. He worked the ballroom last night. Elena placed the schedules beneath the desk. You should stop using his name. Why? Because people who ask about missing employees tend to join them. Before Maya could answer, a housekeeper came through the lobby pushing an empty linen cart. Her name tag read Lena Morris. Maya recognized the name from the comment card hidden inside her locker. 8 years of service. SC14, entered 6 weeks earlier. Lena stopped when she saw Elena. They changed my floor again, she said. They want me in the old wing during the gala. Elena's jaw tightened. Did you sign anything? No. Do not. A junior manager crossed the lobby, and Lena moved on without another word. Maya waited until the cart disappeared behind the elevators. She is still employed. For now. Her file says she left 6 weeks ago. Elena looked toward the camera, then began arranging key envelopes that were already in order. Lena filed a complaint after Miss Cross made her clean a private suite alone at 2 in the morning. The next week, her insurance stopped. HR said it was a clerical mistake. Was it fixed? No. Why is she still coming to work? Because her son needs medication, and management keeps promising the coverage will return if she cooperates. Maya felt the old urge to move immediately to call Northbridge, freeze the transaction, put every executive under formal review. Instead, she asked, "What does cooperate mean?" Elena slid one key envelope into the wrong drawer, noticed, and corrected it. It means do not describe what happened as retaliation. At 11:12, Lena's employee record changed. Maya saw it happen from the front desk terminal. The screen refreshed. Her current shift disappeared. Her department changed from housekeeping to contract services. A note appeared beneath SC14. Assignment concluded, no further action. The timestamp showed 11:11. Lena was upstairs cleaning rooms. The service elevator log showed her badge entering the 7th floor at 11:13. Maya wrote the time on a baggage claim stub. A voice behind her said, "That system is not part of guest services." Maya turned. Elaine Porter stood on the other side of the desk. The HR director looked nothing like the enforcer Maya had expected. She wore a gray suit without jewelry and carried 2 coffees, one of which she placed beside Elena. "You missed breakfast again," Elaine said. Elena did not touch the cup. Elaine looked at Maya's temporary badge. "You are the new agency receptionist." Maya read. "I know." The answer came too quickly. Elaine asked Maya to walk with her. They crossed the lobby and entered a small employee lounge where motivational posters covered old water stains. Elaine closed the door but left the blinds open. "You have been searching former employee records," she said. "I answered a payroll question. You searched 12 names." Maya kept her expression neutral. "Then the system keeps detailed logs." "It has to. Does it log who changes employee status while they are still working?" Elaine studied her for a moment. "SC14 is an internal classification. I have heard 3 explanations. Hotels are complicated. Not every separation fits a clean box. Lena Morris is cleaning the 7th floor. Her assignment was marked concluded 1 minute ago." For the first time, Elaine's composure shifted. Not guilt. Recognition. "Where did you see that?" "The front desk." Elaine reached for the door, then stopped. "Listen carefully," she said. "There are people in this building who believe every complaint is proof of cruelty. There are others who believe every worker can be replaced. Both sides are dangerous. Which side are you on?" "The side that keeps 2,000 people employed." Elaine opened the door. In the hallway, a hotel runner waited with a sealed envelope marked for human resources. The corner had torn during delivery. Maya saw Lena's name through the opening. Below it was a second line. "Voluntary resignation acknowledgement. Unsigned." Elaine took the envelope before the runner noticed. Then she looked back at Maya. "You should be careful what you decide is evidence," she said. Maya watched her walk away carrying a resignation letter for a woman who had never resigned. Bianca Cross arrived at Aurelia Grand shortly after noon wearing sunglasses large enough to turn every face in the lobby toward her. She did not check in. She handed her coat to a bell attendant, passed the reception desk, and asked where Adrian was. No one asked for identification. A duty manager hurried from the concierge station. 2 supervisors straightened their jackets. Even Elena lowered her voice. "That is Bianca." Maya watched the change move across the lobby. It was not respect. It was preparation. Bianca stopped at the desk and placed her phone on the marble. "I want the Meridian suite opened." The duty manager glanced at the screen. "It is occupied until tomorrow." "Then unoccupy it." Bianca did not smile. "The terrace faces the press entrance. I am hosting cocktails there before the gala." "The Halperns have that suite," Elena said. "They extended their stay yesterday." Bianca read Elena's badge before meeting her eyes. "Who approved it?" "I did. Mr. Halpern had surgery last week." "The room is closest to the elevator." "That is unfortunate." Bianca turned to the manager. "Move them to the West Wing." The West Wing is nearly a quarter mile from the ballroom elevators. Then provide a wheelchair. Maya opened the reservation file. The suite carried a red banner marked Executive Hold, entered at 8:03 that morning. The Halperns had not extended their stay until 9:17. Someone had reserved the room for Bianca before she arrived, then allowed the system to accept the extension anyway. Was the hold authorized by Mr. Vale? Maya asked. The manager's head snapped toward her. Bianca removed her sunglasses. And you are? Maya. Guest services. Temporary guest services, Elena added quietly. Bianca studied her. The hold is authorized now. She walked away. The manager followed, already speaking into his radio. Elena closed the reservation screen. You should not have asked that in front of her. The hold was entered before the guests extended. That does not make it safer to notice. By 1:30, the lobby bar had begun rehearsing for the gala. A bartender named Julian Reyes arranged crystal glasses while Bianca rejected every detail. The flowers were too pale. The napkins looked cheap. The signature cocktail needed her name on the menu. Julian explained that hotel policy prohibited naming drinks after people connected to pending corporate transactions. Bianca laughed. You think policy matters more than the person deciding whether you keep this bar? Julian set down the bottle. I thought the board decided staffing. 5 minutes later, the beverage manager received a call. Julian was reassigned to an overnight stock shift. No disciplinary notice appeared. No one discussed the reason. Maya recorded the time and the manager's extension number. A reassignment without discipline could be explained away. A termination minutes after a threat could not. At 2:12, Adrian crossed the lobby with 3 investors and a reporter. Bianca joined him. He placed a hand at the small of her back and spoke about Aurelia's future. This reopening is the beginning of a new identity, Adrian said. Then he looked at Bianca. She understands where the brand has to go next. The reporter asked whether Bianca held an official role. Not yet, but she is the future of Aurelia. Bianca glanced toward reception and smiled. A young events assistant hurried from the ballroom carrying printed schedules. Several pages slipped across the floor. Maya stepped out to help. One page landed beneath the brochure stand. The heading read Opening Night Executive Sequence. At 8:45 p.m., Adrian would announce the expansion agreement. Adopt. Chinchizet Shidoi. Chief Brand Officer. Introduction Bianca Cross. Status, pending, closing. The assistant reached for it. That version is outdated. The closing is tomorrow morning, Maya said. The assistant's eyes moved toward Bianca. I only print what they send me. Who sent it? The duty manager called her name. She took the schedule and hurried away. But the printer had left a faint impression on the blank page beneath it. Maya placed that sheet over a black folder and tilted it toward the light. Pending closing. At 3, Julian appeared near the staff entrance carrying his apron in a paper bag. Elena stopped him. Why are you leaving? They said my service contract ended. Maya searched his file. The status line refreshed while she watched. Sviatzin. Julian gave a bitter laugh. That code again? You know it? Everyone knows it. We just do not know what it means until it happens to us. He looked toward the camera above the bar. It recorded her threat and the manager's call. Will the footage still exist tomorrow? Not if she asks for it. Across the lobby, Bianca entered the elevator with Adrian. Before the doors closed, he handed her a key card inside a black sleeve. Maya checked the access code. Meridian Suite. The Halperns were still upstairs. The hold had never been about cocktails. Adrian had planned to give Bianca the room before she asked for it, just as he had planned to give her a title before anyone approved it. Maya wrote 4 times beneath Julian's name on a guest comment card. The room hold, the threat, the termination, the camera. Then she underlined the last one. Evidence disappeared fastest when everyone assumed someone else was keeping it. The complaint numbers broke in 3 places. Maya noticed while helping Elena reconcile guest service incidents from the previous month. The front desk kept a parallel log whenever a complaint involved security, property damage, or staff conduct. Most entries followed a clean sequence. A. 4,992. A. 4,163. A. 4,139. Four numbers were missing. The next page jumped again. The gaps clustered around weekends when Bianca had stayed at Aurelia Grand. Elena, where do escalated staff complaints go? Human resources. These did not. They were probably duplicates. 4 duplicates in one weekend? Elena gave her a tired look. You keep asking questions as if the answer will make you feel better. I am not looking to feel better. That is fortunate. A guest approached, ending the conversation. During the afternoon lull, Maya searched the shared drive for one missing number. The system returned no complaint, but found a reference inside an old training calendar. Hospitality Excellence Review Case of 4184. The file path led to a folder outside the formal HR directory. Access denied. The missing cases did not disappear randomly. Each had been replaced by a training entry created within 24 hours of the original report. The complaints had not been deleted. They had been renamed, softened, and moved where ordinary auditors would never look. Maya wrote down the server location and closed the window. At 4:20, Elena left the desk to help a family whose luggage had gone to the wrong floor. Maya searched the printed binders beneath the counter. She found a thin blue folder labeled Service Culture. Inside were employee statements rewritten as coaching summaries. One described a supervisor entering a housekeeper's room without knocking. The original complaint had requested an investigation. The summary said the employee showed heightened sensitivity to routine oversight. Another concerned Bianca ordering a server to remain after his shift without pay. The summary called it a misunderstanding regarding flexible hospitality standards. No employee signatures appeared on the revised pages. Maya copied the case numbers onto a baggage routing form and returned the folder. Each number now connected a vanished complaint to a sanitized lesson. When Elena came back, she saw the open cabinet. You need to stop. Did you file a 4191? Elena froze. 6 months earlier, Bianca had ordered an older room attendant named Ruth to clean a private suite after 2 in the morning. Ruth asked for another employee to remain because a guest inside was intoxicated. Bianca accused her of insulting a VIP and demanded she finish alone. Elena reported it. The complaint vanished, she said. Ruth was transferred to laundry. 2 weeks later, her hours disappeared. Who took your statement? Elaine. A man cleared his throat behind them. Daniel Ross stood near the end of the desk. Miss Reed, security needs to speak with you. He led Maya to the monitoring office. Rows of lobby feeds covered the wall. Julian's bar appeared in the upper right corner. The timestamp covered the hour Bianca had threatened him. No archive marker appeared beneath it. You requested footage from last month, Daniel said. I asked whether it existed. You used a case number no longer in the complaint system. Does that mean the footage is gone too? Daniel folded his arms. You are a temporary receptionist, and you are answering a different question. His eyes moved to the bar camera. Official footage follows the retention schedule. Official footage. Maya noticed an older terminal beneath the main console, disconnected from the hotel network, with a portable drive attached. Daniel shifted enough to block it. Did someone order you to delete the Julian Reyes video? No. Daniel's eyes moved toward the older terminal before he finished the denial. Maya waited. Deletion requests come through executive security review, Daniel said. Not through me. Who approves them? You already know the names. Plural. A notification flashed on the central monitor. Archive export complete. Daniel dismissed it. He escorted Maya toward the elevator, then stopped. Some systems fail at convenient times, he said. That does not mean nothing was recorded. At 5:10, Elaine appeared beside reception holding the blue folder Maya had opened. She placed it inside a locked leather case. You accessed restricted employee material, Elaine said. I opened a front office cabinet. You have mistaken proximity for permission. Why are complaints being rewritten as coaching summaries? Because raw allegations can destroy careers before facts are verified. Whose careers? The pause answered more than her words. The hotel cannot survive every private grievance becoming a public accusation. Elaine closed the case. Some truths can close a hotel faster than lies. She walked toward the executive elevators. Maya looked across the lobby at employees preparing for opening night. The danger was no longer that complaints had been ignored. Someone had built a second system to change what the complaints meant. By 6:30, Aurelia Grand no longer looked like a workplace. The marble lobby had become a stage. Florists replaced ordinary arrangements with white orchids. A press wall covered the staff entrance. Investors arrived while managers corrected uniforms, posture, and smiles. Maya stood behind reception beside Elena. The Meridian suite remained occupied. Mr. Halpern was recovering from surgery, and his wife had confirmed they would return upstairs soon after the opening toast. At 7:12, the duty manager leaned across the desk. If Miss Cross asks, say engineering found a water pressure issue. There is no issue, Maya said. There will be if she needs one. Elena stopped sorting key packets. This is not the night to make a principal visible, the manager said before walking away. For 3 days, Maya had watched employees survive by keeping principals invisible. They knew which complaints vanished, which cameras failed, and which names became codes. Opening night was meant to make the hotel look too successful to question. Bianca arrived at 8 in a silver dress with 3 guests and a photographer. Adrian met her near the staircase, then led her toward the investors. She criticized the flowers, the press lighting, and the spacing between champagne glasses before approaching reception. My sweet key. The duty manager produced a black sleeve. The Meridian suite is still occupied, Maya said. Bianca looked at him. You told me this was handled. He opened the Halpern's reservation. Call them. Say there is a plumbing concern. Offer the West Wing. A note filled the screen. Limited mobility. Please do not relocate. Maya closed the call window. I cannot tell them that. This is an operational decision, the manager said. It is a false statement to a guest. Bianca placed one hand on the marble. Do you understand who is asking? Yes. Behind her, 2 reporters turned toward the desk. Bianca pointed at the elevators. Move them. I have guests coming upstairs in 10 minutes. Mr. Halpern is recovering from surgery. The West Wing is too far from the elevator. Then arrange a wheelchair. They did not ask for one. Bianca took a champagne flute from a passing tray. Elena saw the motion first. Miss Cross. Bianca tipped the glass. Champagne struck the keyboard and spread across Maya's blouse. A reservation card slid to the floor. Bianca stepped back as if Maya had caused it. She raised her voice at me, she announced. Now she is refusing to assist a guest. Maya disconnected the wet keyboard before the liquid reached the power strip. The practical movement seemed to disappoint Bianca. Adrian crossed the lobby seconds later. What happened? Bianca answered first. She accused me of lying, refused a direct request, and made a scene in front of the press. Maya began. The Meridian suite is occupied by... I know who is in the suite, Adrian said. That changed the moment. He was not reacting to incomplete information. He had approved the lie before entering the lobby. Then you know there is no plumbing problem, Maya said. Hospitality requires judgment. You do not have it. He reached for her badge. The pin caught, forcing him to pull harder than he intended. People like you do not decide who matters here. When the badge came free, he held it between 2 fingers. No one intervened. Elena knew about Ruth. The manager had seen the reservation note. The reporters had heard Adrian admit he knew the guests were upstairs. Their silence did not mean agreement. It meant they understood the cost of objecting. Daniel, Adrian called. Remove her. Maya could have identified herself and stopped the gala with one call. But the data room remained open. If she revealed herself now, every altered status and missing complaint could become part of an emergency cleanup. Adrian would call the incident a misunderstanding. Bianca would deny operational authority. Elaine would seal the files. The humiliation was public. The proof was not ready. Maya placed her headset beside the damaged keyboard. The Halperns remain in the Meridian suite, she said. Adrian looked at the duty manager. After a brief hesitation, he nodded. It was not a victory. It was time. Daniel guided Maya toward the service corridor. At the turn, Elena picked up the badge Adrian had dropped and pressed it into Daniel's hand. No apology, only the first visible choice she had made. Beside a locked housekeeping door, Daniel slowed. The lobby feed is scheduled for executive review, he said. Scheduled for deletion. I did not say that. You did not need to. He glanced at the ceiling camera. The official system is not the only system. Maya checked the clock above the staff elevator. 8:14 p.m. The confrontation had come earlier than expected. While the investors were still arriving, the executive archive remained within Adrian's control, and reporters were still filming. Adrian had not only shortened the gala schedule, he had shortened the time she had left to prove why. Maya had been outside the hotel for less than 12 minutes when Owen called. Your cover is gone. She stood beneath the service awning, champagne drying cold against her blouse. How? Adrian's counsel ran your name through the transaction team after security flagged your access questions. They found the Northbridge filings. Then freeze the data room. I cannot freeze a seller-controlled system without a formal preservation basis. You have one. You have suspicious classifications, inconsistent records, and a public incident involving you personally. Adrian will say you are retaliating. He will say that anyway. He already is. Owen forwarded a meeting invitation. Emergency Transaction Review 8:45 p.m. Participants included Northbridge Counsel, Aurelia's board chair, Adrian, Elaine, and the outside firm certifying the employee data. The final line mattered most. At Aurelia Hospitality's request, system access would be restricted at 10:15 p.m., pending legal review. The archive had been scheduled to remain open until 11. Adrian had taken 45 minutes away before the meeting began. Daniel opened the service door. They want you in conference room B. He handed her a staff jacket to cover the stain. Her badge was not with it. Through the conference room glass, guests continued drinking beneath the Aurelia logo while executives gathered around a walnut table. Adrian stood beside Bianca. She had no approved title, yet no lawyer asked her to leave. He no longer looked embarrassed. He looked prepared. Thomas Keene, Aurelia's board chair, introduced Maya to people who had exchanged documents with her for months without meeting her. Adrian pointed to her uniform. This is the Northbridge operating partner responsible for an undercover provocation inside my hotel. It was an operational review, Maya said. It became a provocation when you concealed a conflict and engineered a confrontation with Miss Cross. I did not engineer a false room emergency. Your managers did. Adrian turned to Thomas. She entered through a staffing agency, accessed employee records beyond her assigned role, questioned workers about active disputes, and used a guest service disagreement to threaten this transaction. I have not threatened it. You told security you still had to sign tomorrow. Because I do. A Northbridge committee member joined by video. Maya, did employees know they were speaking to an investor? No. Did you collect restricted documents? No. Did you intervene in management decisions? Only when I was instructed to lie to a mobility impaired guest. Adrian opened a black folder labeled Hostel Evaluator Conduct. Inside were statements describing Maya as intrusive, argumentative, and unusually interested in terminated employees. One claimed she had encouraged Lena Morris to challenge management. Maya had never discussed a complaint with Lena. Adrian had prepared a narrative before knowing who she was. When was this file created? She asked. His attorney answered. That is privileged. The title is specific to an evaluator. No one responded. Elaine sat halfway down the table, both hands around an unopened water bottle. Thomas looked at her. Has Human Resources verified the workforce data supplied to Northbridge? Yes, Elaine said. Maya watched her. Including SC, 14 classifications? Elaine's grip tightened. Our separation codes comply with internal policy. What policy? This is not an employee grievance hearing, Adrian said. It becomes one when employee records are used to certify enterprise value. He leaned forward. And it becomes misconduct when an investor hides behind a reception desk to manufacture cause for renegotiation. Adrian told the room Northbridge wanted to lower the acquisition price. He said Maya had befriended dissatisfied staff and waited for a predictable dispute so she could portray ordinary pressure as abuse. The argument did not require everyone to believe him. It only required them to doubt her fairness. Thomas turned to Maya. Can you prove material falsification tonight? She could show timestamps, complaint gaps, a prepared resignation letter, and a role promised to Bianca before approval. But the original database remained under Aurelia's control. Not without preservation and independent access, she said. Adrian spread his hands. Then we are discussing suspicion. Owen's voice came through the speaker. Northbridge will not sign the culture and governance certification while the records are disputed. A second representative replied, that is not the same as terminating the deal. No, Maya said, it is refusing to certify what we cannot verify. Adrian asked counsel to move the data restriction forward again. Thomas objected. The notice says 10:15. 9. Security identified unauthorized access attempts. We lock at 10. The wall clock read 9 p.m. 51 minutes. Thomas ordered that no files be deleted. Adrian agreed too easily. A locked room could preserve whatever version was inside it, while every missing draft outside the system became easier to deny. Maya looked at Elaine. Who approved the SC-14 changes? Elaine lowered her eyes to the unopened water bottle. Adrian did. Human Resources owns employee classifications. He had placed the entire system at Elaine's feet. Elaine looked directly at him, and recognition crossed her face before she hid it. Adrian had not brought her to defend the numbers. He had brought her to carry them when they collapsed. At 9:13, Maya's system access was revoked. At 9:14, Daniel sent a message from an unknown number. They are moving boxes from HR. Maya closed the hostile evaluator file and stood. Where are you going? Thomas asked. To find out what they are preserving. Adrian told security to stop her. No one moved. Maya found Elaine in the records corridor behind Human Resources. 2 archive boxes sat on a cart beside her. One was sealed. The other had been repacked so quickly that several folders leaned at odd angles. Elaine held a keycard but had not used it. You told the board the workforce data was verified, Maya said. It was verified under our internal standards. Standards you wrote? Elaine glanced at the camera above them. Not here. She led Maya into a small payroll office and locked the door. The room had no windows, only a printer, 2 filing cabinets, and a wall calendar still showing the previous month. Maya placed the hostile evaluator file on the desk. Adrian prepared this before tonight. He prepares for every possibility. He prepared to call me biased. When the numbers fail, he is prepared to blame you. Elaine's thumb pressed into the edge of her keycard. Who created SC-14? Maya asked. Elaine sat down. I did. She removed an old staffing report from a drawer. It showed canceled conventions, empty rooms, and payroll reductions. 3 years ago, Aurelia was losing money every week, she said. The lenders wanted cuts. Department heads started firing anyone with an active complaint because those employees complicated restructuring. So you created a code, a holding category. Temporary separation pending review. It did not stay temporary. No. SC-14 allowed a worker to leave active headcount without appearing as a retaliatory termination. Insurance costs dropped. Turnover looked lower because the departure remained under review. Managers could still call workers in when occupancy rose, but the company no longer counted them as active employees. The reviews rarely closed. Adrian said no investor would finance expansion while labor claims were unresolved, Elaine said. I believe 2,000 people could lose their jobs because 12 executives wanted perfect data. You protected the executives who created the problem. I kept the doors open and kept people working without the protections they had earned. Elaine did not answer. Maya moved one archive box closer. What is inside? Original status forms. Before they were changed? Elaine looked away. Maya lifted the lid. Elaine caught her wrist. If those leave without authorization, Adrian will say you contaminated the record. He is already moving boxes. I know. Then preserve them. Elaine released her. You think truth arrives with one guilty person and one correct decision. If Northbridge walks tomorrow, payroll fails in 6 weeks. Then let the board see the real choice. The door opened. Bianca stood outside with Adrian's assistant. Legal wants every unresolved personnel file downstairs before 10, she said. Elaine blocked the cart. These records are under review. They are under your review until closing. After that, they belong to restructuring. Who authorized restructuring? Bianca smiled. Do not become sentimental now. You have been useful because you understand what survival requires. She handed Elaine a printed email. Sign the transfer log. Elaine read the first page. Her eyes stopped near the bottom. Bianca took it back. 10 minutes. As she walked away, Maya caught one line. Post-closing consolidation human resources leadership transition. Elaine opened her laptop. The full email chain waited in her inbox, apparently forwarded by mistake. Adrian's message appeared at the top. Following closing, terminate Porter for unauthorized classification practices. Preserve executive separation from implementation details. Below it, Bianca had replied. Agreed. She remains useful through certification. Elaine read the exchange twice. Maya said nothing. The system had never been designed to save employees. It had been designed to save Adrian from the consequences of using them. At 9:31, Elaine inserted an encrypted drive into her computer. What are you doing? Maya asked. Creating the record I should have created the first time. She opened the original workforce database. Names returned to the screen beside complaints, insurance dates, and actual reasons for separation. Lena Morris, Julian Reyes, Samuel Ortega, Ruth Bell, hundreds more. Elaine started the export. I am not giving this to you, she said. Then who? The board, independent counsel, and the regulator if Adrian deletes anything tonight. That is enough. No, it is late. Elaine looked at the names. I told myself I was protecting their jobs. I was only making it easier to remove them. A red banner appeared. Administrator session will terminate in 2. Adrian had begun shutting down her access. The progress bar stopped at 73%. Elaine copied the remaining file index and pulled the drive before the session closed. The screen returned to a blank login page. The export was incomplete, but the names were no longer stored in only one place. Wheels rattled in the corridor. Someone was coming for the boxes. Elaine locked both archives, placed one key in Maya's hand, and kept the other. I am not on your side, she said. Maya closed her fingers around the key. Then be on the record. The men coming for the archive boxes wore vendor badges, not Aurelia uniforms. Elaine stepped into the corridor before they reached the payroll office. These records are under legal hold. The taller man showed her a transfer order signed by Adrian's assistant. Elaine held up her phone. Then say that again while I record it. Both men stopped. Maya slipped through the opposite door and took the service stairs down. At 9:38, Daniel texted a location. Loading Bay 3. The loading dock smelled of rain, cardboard, and diesel. Delivery vans blocked the streetlights, leaving the far corner in shadow. Daniel waited beside an unmarked security vehicle. His tie was gone. A portable drive rested in his palm. You have 6 minutes, he said. Until what? Until they notice I disabled the dock camera. Maya did not reach for the drive. What is on it? Copies that should not exist. 3 years earlier, a banquet server named Denise Walker had accused a corporate guest of assaulting her in a service elevator. The official camera failed during the exact 8 minutes surrounding the incident. Daniel knew it had not failed. Executive security had removed the segment after Adrian called the guest important to Aurelia's recovery. Denise was dismissed for abandoning her station. Daniel had told himself he lacked proof. After that, he began exporting selected footage before executive review. Why keep it for years? Maya asked. Because deleting it made me part of the decision. He opened a laptop on the hood of the vehicle. The first clip showed Bianca at the lobby desk. There was no missing angle and no ambiguous gesture. She looked at Maya, lifted the glass, and poured. The second clip came from the bar. Bianca told Julian that she could decide whether he kept his job. Seconds later, the beverage manager answered a call from Adrian's private extension. The third showed two assistants removing boxes from human resources 20 minutes before Adrian told the board all records would be preserved. The final file had audio from a management walk through the previous evening. Adrian's voice came from outside the frame. Bianca gets operational priority until closing. If staff resist, document performance issues and let Elaine process the exits. Daniel closed the laptop. That is not a difficult guess, Maya said. No. It is delegated authority. Yes. Why did you not give this to Elaine? Because every deletion request carried HR confirmation. Because Rihanna's Rian had created the system or merely protected it. Maya did not explain. Decision had to remain hers. Daniel held out the drive. My wife is on Aurelia's health plan. My daughter starts physical therapy next month. If Adrian says I stole company footage, whistleblower language will not pay the first bill. Maya heard what he was really asking for. A guarantee. She could not honestly give one. You may lose this job, she said. They may sue you before anyone decides you were protected. Northbridge can preserve the evidence and provide counsel, but I cannot promise they will not hurt you. Daniel looked toward the hotel. For 3 years, I kept copies so I could tell myself I had not erased anything. That is not the same as speaking. I know. A door slammed inside the loading area. Daniel removed a folded statement from his jacket. It identified each camera, export time, deletion request, and executive instruction he had received. At the bottom was an empty signature line. I wrote this at lunch, he said. Before Bianca poured the champagne? Before I knew whether you would be another person who collected proof and left. Maya handed him a pen. He did not take it immediately. What happens to the employees if the deal collapses? Northbridge freezes the transaction, not payroll. I will demand continuity funding during the audit. Can you force that? I can make it a condition of any future deal. Daniel signed. The dock camera came back online by itself. His 6 minutes were over. An alert sounded on the laptop. Executive data room sealed 9:46 p.m. 14 minutes before Adrian's revised deadline. Daniel stared at the notice. They locked it early, because they think the version inside is the only version left. He gave Maya the drive and the signed statement. Security radios crackled beyond the loading doors. Someone called Daniel's name. He straightened his jacket. If they ask, I escorted you out. You did. He walked toward the voices, then stopped. Denise Walker, he said. Her complaint number was a 4184. Maya wrote it beneath his signature. The number fit one of the gaps in the complaint log. Daniel had not only preserved the footage, he had just restored a name to the record. At 10:07 p.m., Thomas Keene reconvened the emergency review in Aurelia Grand's executive boardroom. The gala continued 6 floors below. Through the glass wall, the city lights made the hotel look untouched by anything happening inside it. Adrian stood at the head of the table. Bianca sat behind him with outside counsel, though no one had approved her attendance. Elaine had not arrived. Daniel was no longer answering his radio. Thomas looked at Maya. You asked for this meeting before midnight. You have the floor after Mr. Vale responds to the preservation concerns. Adrian rose with prepared pages. There are no preservation concerns, he said. There is an attempted commercial ambush. Northbridge, he claimed, had placed an undisclosed evaluator inside the hotel. Maya had accessed personnel systems beyond her assignment, encouraged employees to reopen settled complaints, and provoked an incident with Bianca before reporters. The purpose is obvious. Create reputational pressure, suspend closing, and renegotiate the price. One director asked about the data room being sealed early, security protocol, and the boxes removed from human resources? Thomas asked. Routine transfer to legal review. Adrian described SC-14 as an administrative category created by human resources during restructuring. No executive officer, he said, directed individual classifications. Elaine's empty chair strengthened his argument. If Miss Porter exceeded her authority, we will investigate. But one department's procedural failures do not justify destroying a company that employs 2,000 people. Bianca leaned forward. I am not an officer of Aurelia. I was a guest verbally attacked by an employee pretending to be someone she was not. Adrian ended with the employees. If Northbridge walks away tonight, the financing collapses. Properties will be sold. People will lose jobs. I will not apologize for protecting them from one evaluator's personal grievance. Thomas gave Maya the floor. She did not begin with the champagne. She displayed 2 columns. Workforce totals Aurelia had certified to Northbridge and insurer enrollment history already included in due diligence. The difference was hundreds of employees. Explain the methodology, one director said. Employees were removed from active coverage while continuing scheduled shifts. Their files were classified under SC-14, then excluded from both active turnover and formal termination reporting. Adrian's attorney objected. You do not have the original HR database. I have its audit trail and corroborating records. Maya displayed Lena Morris's audit trail. At 11:11 a.m., Lena had been marked assignment concluded. The service elevator log showed her badge entering the 7th floor 2 minutes later. Then came Julian Reyes. His contract ended minutes after Bianca told him she could decide whether he kept his position. Bianca shook her head. That conversation never happened. Maya played the bar footage. Bianca's voice filled the boardroom. You think policy matters more than the person deciding whether you keep this bar? The clip continued through the manager's call from Adrian's private extension. Maya changed the screen. The Meridian Suite hold had been entered before Bianca arrived. The event schedule listed her chief brand officer introduction as pending closing. Audio from the management walkthrough followed. Bianca gets operational priority until closing. If staff resist, document performance issues and let Elaine process the exits. Adrian spoke before the recording ended. Illegally retained surveillance cannot be used to interpret executive intent. It can establish whether your disclosure was false, Owen said through the speaker. Maya displayed the preservation timeline. At 9:09, Adrian agreed no records would be moved. At 9:22, footage showed 2 assistants removing HR boxes. At 9:46, the data room was sealed early. A director turned to Adrian. Who ordered the transfer? Human Resources. Elaine Porter was still in the meeting when the cart was requested, Maya said. Adrian shifted defenses. Then security acted improperly. Miss Reed has shown isolated failures by employees. She has not shown fraud by the CEO. He pointed to Daniel's footage. Mr. Ross stole company property. Any statement he gives is contaminated by his own misconduct. The doors opened. Daniel entered with 2 security officers behind him and placed his signed declaration on the table. I made the exports, he said. I also received the deletion requests. Adrian looked at the officers. Remove him. Neither moved. Thomas opened the statement. It listed camera numbers, archive times, executive instructions, and Denise Walker's complaint number. Adrian remained composed. A security guard's confession does not convert HR errors into executive fraud. Moments later, Elaine pushed one archive box into the room. The encrypted drive hung from her wrist. You were instructed to transfer those records to counsel, Adrian said. I was instructed to transfer them to counsel selected by you. Thomas asked, did you create SC-14? Yes. Did Mr. Vale direct you to falsify records? Elaine looked at Adrian. He never used that word. Adrian almost smiled. He told me unresolved complaints would kill the financing. He told me to move disputed employees out of active headcount without recording retaliatory terminations. He approved the method every quarter. She connected the drive. The export was incomplete, but it contained the original index, status change logs, and executive emails. One message appeared on the screen. Following closing, terminate Porter for unauthorized classification practices. Preserve executive separation from implementation details. Below it was Bianca's reply. Agreed. She remains useful through certification. Bianca pushed back from the table. That was taken out of context. Elaine faced her. What context makes useful through certification mean anything else? Adrian stood. Elaine designed the system. She has admitted it. Now she is protecting herself. Elaine opened quarterly summaries sent directly to Adrian. Each showed the true employee count, SC14 exclusions, and the gap between public turnover and insured departures. Adrian had replied to the final report with 2 words. Keep stable. Elaine's voice remained controlled. I thought I was protecting their jobs. I was only erasing their names. Elena Park rose from the visitor row with the employee's representative. Managers told us SC14 was temporary, she said. Then they used lost insurance, reduced hours, and unsigned resignations to make people stop complaining. She placed Maya's name badge beside Daniel's declaration. This is what Mr. Vale removed tonight. He did the same thing to hundreds of people in the system. Adrian looked around the table. You suspend me, the lenders panic. The deal dies before morning. Thomas closed the hostile evaluator file. No. The deal pauses. He called for a vote on Adrian's immediate suspension, an independent preservation order, and continuity funding to protect payroll during the audit. 2 directors abstained. 1 voted against suspension. The remaining votes passed all 3 measures. Bianca was ordered to surrender Aurelia property and credentials. Daniel received interim whistleblower protection. Elaine was ordered to cooperate, without any promise that her actions would be excused. Thomas looked down the table toward Maya. Will Northbridge terminate? Not tonight, but there will be no certification under this leadership. Adrian stared at her. You destroyed the expansion to make a point. No. You risked the company because you believed every person below you could be replaced. Security approached him. Maya did not ask them to take him through the gala. She requested the private elevator. Then she asked that every employee still working be restored to active payroll and insurance until each record could be reviewed. On the screen, the SC14 files remained open. They were no longer codes waiting to disappear. They were names waiting to be read. At 7:20 the next morning, Aurelia Grand opened its doors on time. The lobby looked almost unchanged. The press wall still carried the expansion slogan. Guests crossed the marble floor without knowing Adrian had left before midnight. Only the employees noticed what was different. Adrian's photograph had been removed from the executive display. Bianca's name had disappeared from the event schedule, and every manager had received the same instruction before dawn. No employee could be removed from payroll, benefits, housing, or the weekly schedule without independent review. Maya returned through the staff entrance in her own clothes. The security officer reached for a temporary badge, then stopped. You are on the visitor list now. Maya looked at the tray of printed cards. Guest services is fine. He handed her a blank badge. She wrote Maya Reed in black ink and clipped it to her jacket. The first meeting took place in the ballroom Adrian had used to impress investors the night before. No cameras. No champagne. Folding tables replaced the stage. Thomas Keene sat with Northbridge Counsel, a labor attorney, and department representatives. Elaine attended with separate counsel. Daniel sat near the door. Maya began without presenting herself as the person who had saved the deal. Before we discuss investment, she said, we need to discuss harm. The review team had identified 312 active or recently active employees connected to SC14. Some had lost insurance while continuing to work. Others had been pushed into contractor status. 47 had signed resignation forms under pressure. At least 19 complaints had been converted into training summaries. No one applauded. The numbers were too large for applause. Elena asked the first question. What happens to the people who already left? They will be contacted, the labor attorney said. Each case will be reviewed. Back pay, benefits restoration, record correction, and settlement options will depend on what happened. And if they do not trust Aurelia enough to answer? Maya said. Then Aurelia will have to earn the right to be heard. She did not promise every injury could be repaired. Some had moved away or lost coverage during treatment. Denise Walker had spent 3 years believing the service elevator footage no longer existed. The board authorized an independent outreach team that would not report to hotel management. Daniel provided Denise's video and a written account of why it had been withheld. He remained employed during the investigation, but his access was restricted while counsel reviewed his unauthorized exports. I understand, he said. He did not ask to be called brave. Elaine's review was harder. Her data helped expose Adrian, but it also proved how long she had maintained the system. She was placed on administrative leave and required to cooperate with regulators. Her counsel objected to language, suggesting sole responsibility. Maya agreed. She is responsible for what she built, Maya said. She is not responsible for every person who ordered, approved, and benefited from it. Elaine looked at her across the table. It was not forgiveness. It was accuracy. By noon, Northbridge announced that the acquisition would remain suspended. The company would provide short-term continuity funding only if Aurelia met 4 conditions: independent leadership, restored employee protections, transparent reporting, and a board committee with elected staff representatives. The expansion into 6 cities was postponed. Some directors called it a disaster. Maya called it a cost. There was a difference. Aurelia appointed an interim chief executive from outside the Vail network. She began by meeting housekeeping before the board. Bianca's proposed title was voided. Company vehicles, cards, and suite access were revoked. Adrian's compensation was frozen. Pending the audit, investigators began tracing payments to consulting companies connected to him. None of it made employees immediately trust the new promises. At an evening staff forum, a banquet captain asked Maya why she had watched for 3 days without telling them who she was. The room waited for a polished answer. Maya did not give one. I thought acting too early would destroy the evidence, she said. I was also afraid of making the wrong accusation. Both were true. But while I waited, people were still being hurt. Elena folded her arms. So would you do it differently? Yes. How? I would create a safe way for employees to speak before I entered the building. And I would intervene sooner when someone's health or livelihood was being used as leverage. A few people nodded. Others did not. That was fair. 6 months later, Aurelia Grand reopened its training center. The first room was dedicated to frontline decision-making. New employees practiced what to do when a wealthy guest demanded something unsafe, dishonest, or cruel. Near the entrance stood a small glass case. Inside was the badge Adrian had torn from Maya's uniform. No title appeared beneath it. No mention of Northbridge, the suspended deal, or the board vote. Only one sentence. Ask what happened before you decide who matters. A new receptionist named Tessa stood before the case on her first morning. She adjusted her badge, then noticed Maya near the door. Were you scared that night? She asked. Maya looked through the open training room doors toward the lobby. Yes. Tessa waited. Maya smiled faintly. But fear was never proof that I was powerless. Tessa straightened her badge and walked toward the front desk. Maya did not follow. The last thing visible before the doors closed was not the badge behind glass. It was the one still being worn.